It's gonna be awesome, man. Guys, it's Wednesday night, and we are back. Welcome
Well, I'm
to
back.
episode. Yeah, you're back. I didn't go anywhere. You're back, and I'm excited about that, dude. I'm excited about him. If everybody is as excited as I am about having Eric back, please tell us in the chat over there in the side there. All right, guys. Welcome to episode 77 of the Drag Drive Repeat Show, presented by Summit Racing. Tons of drag and drive event, racer, and vehicle coverage tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Let's talk about events this weekend. We're going to have we're both headed to the Havlik Streetcar Shootout Tribute Race. That's going to be fun. There's the Super Mags Powerfest Burnout. We're going to go over those competitors. Rodney Harder and Ed Hohenberg are going to trade drag and drive stories right here with us tonight. They're going to be our guests. They're probably an hour and 15 minutes is what we're planning for those guys. I'm really pumped about them. And we're talking about the top 10 Drag and Drive World Champion points holders here in just a little bit. All right, dude, let's hit that intro video and do this thing.
All right, let's do it.
We're gonna pack things up and hit the road and try to make it the next day.
All right, dude. Eric, I'm so glad you're back. I really am. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Well, guys, my name's Mike Narks. I'm the host of the Drag Drive Repeat Show, which is what you're watching right now, and the Drag Drive Repeat News, which happens on Saturday mornings. That the news is like an hour long, hard hitting, just hammer through all of the news and updates that come from the Drag and Drive community. But the show tonight is a little more fun. We're gonna kind of lay back and enjoy ourselves for about the next 2 hours. So, Mr. Eric White, introduce yourself. Tell them what you got going on, dude.
I am Eric White. I am the co-host for both the show and the news. I haven't been on here for 2 weeks as of today, which is crazy because we missed Saturday and then I was gone Wednesday and then Saturday again. But I alternate between being a photographer and a graphic designer. So this weekend I'm going to go back and be a photographer again at the Havlik's race. So I'm excited for that. But otherwise, a lot of graphic design stuff, a lot of artwork for Drag Drive Repeat, for other events. So that usually keeps me pretty busy.
That is for sure. You've been a busy, busy guy. A lot of stuff that you're working on that's outside of the drag and drive world too. For me at least, I know there's some other events that you're working on as well. So, well, let's get to this thing, man. Guys, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but we can't do it without our race car friends. Cannot. This is probably one of the this is one of the hardest things to do when you're doing midnight and 1 a.m. stuff and you're out trying to get all the content and get stories and talk to people and all that stuff. And race car friends help us get through all of this. I saw Taylor Hedrick make a comment just a second ago. He's one of our race car friends, who's actually on a episode just a couple days ago. So I want to say thanks to him and CJ Roberts for coming on and telling the story of the almost 6,000-mile trip that they took to Canada. And then, guys, thank you to our sponsors, man. Can't do it without those. We talked to Summit earlier this week or last week, whatever week it was. And I think that was last week. And I'm excited about what is coming with our partnership with them. So appreciate Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Change 3D, WAF Racing, Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Power Tube TV, and Racing Junk Classifieds. Man, you guys, they make all that stuff happen. What's Paul Snyder talking about in here?
Some Fast and Furious quotes.
Oh man, the best ones, the best ones. I'm telling you, I got to see Paul this last weekend, so we're going to talk a little bit about that as we get into a later part of the episode. Well, Summit Racing Speed Legacy began in 1968 as a one-man operation and is now the world's speed shop with 4 facilities and 200 plus catalog editions. They fuel your passion, they save you money, they deliver fast, and offer top-notch customer service for more than 1,500 brands. Make sure to download the Summit Racing mobile app for easy access to speed parts anywhere that you're at, and find them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for all your social media needs. You can also tune into the On All Cylinders podcast for more automotive discussions like what you're listening to now. From humble origins to the social media lane, Summit Racing stands by your need for speed. You can find everything you need car related and more apparel related on summitracing.com.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, let's talk about what they put up this week because I thought this was a really good topic. I thought so. If you're not following them or you're watching this on the podcast or listening to this on the podcast, flip over to YouTube. Summit Racing Equipment has a great social media team, and on Facebook they post if you could bring back any discontinued car model, which one would it be? My choice, obviously, is I think Pontiac would be a great performance brand. I think so. There was a lot of people in the more than 250 comments. Now it says 218 when I took this picture. It was 250 now. I think Pontiac would be a fun brand for GM to bring back because they could do like the Firebird, they could do like a Bonneville, V8 rear-wheel drive, kind of Cadillac-esque competitor, and then also some kind of little hot hatchback. I think that would be a lot of fun. They could really kind of broaden the horizons with that brand and have some fun stuff instead of it being all SUVs. What
Yeah.
about you, man? What do you think?
I had a couple. So kind of a newer model that got discontinued that would be cool still to have is obviously the Dodge Viper. We haven't
Oh
had
yeah.
Vipers for a few years now, but my other one is bring back the Nova.
Oh, dude.
Make a new Nova. Jeremy in here, yes, I did think this as well. 240SX. That was
Yep.
another one that did cross my mind. But I think if I were to get to choose one that would get retrofitted, it would be like a 70 Nova.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. That's a great choice. I didn't even think about that because I went down the brand lineup right out of the gate and thought. So that's hey, dude, that's a great thing. All right, well, let's move into some driven racing oil event updates, man.
All right.
Oh, hey, wait. Sorry.
Hold
One
on.
more thing. I didn't put it in the notes. That's why I didn't see it. Hushmat, 10% off, guys. I know as we move into the later part of the season here, it's hot outside. It's even hotter with your engine cooking the inside firewall. And so Hushmat helps with a ton of that. It keeps quiet, keeps the noise down, but also keeps a lot of that heat out. And it's 10% off on summitracing.com right now. Sorry.
And you can throw in a drag driver Pete t-shirt while you're on there.
Yeah.
All right. Why gamble with performance or protection when you get proven results from Driven Racing Oil? Trusted by top engine builders, winning racers, and devoted horsepower enthusiasts around the world. Driven takes legendary base oils such as the ones from Bradford, Pennsylvania, which comprise their GP1 line. Then, Driven boosts that superior base with state of the art additive packages. Driven's GP1 Nitro 70 not only provides anti wear protection, but can even shield cylinders from washout and fuel dilution caused by using methanol or nitro based fuels. Learn more about Driven Racing Oil by following them on Facebook and Instagram at Driven Racing Oil or shop now at drivenracingoil.com.
I know that's right. Well, let's talk about the event that is happening in 2 days. Let's talk
Yes.
about Havlik's fastest street car shootout. Before this whole thing started, Eric and I were backstage talking about stuff, right? That is this weekend. That is the weekend of August 8th and 9th, or 9th and 10th, I think are the dates of the event. Tri-State Raceway, Earlville, Iowa. Tri-State's one of the coolest tracks that I think I've been to because it's like they cut the level surface out of the ground, and then so there's this huge berm on the side that really makes a lot of great shots. I can't wait to see all the photographers like Eric that'll be there taking shots of all the cars making passes anywhere along the track, but it also gives you a really good view of the track from up there. So big props to the Hot Rods by Havlik team for picking that track. I know that's probably their closest track, but still they could have hosted this anywhere. And I think having it at a track like that's going to be really good. So
Yeah,
again, this
and
is it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, oddly enough, for a track that's only 2.5 hours from me and has been used for one guy's garage and sixth summer, I've actually never been to Tri-State.
What? Oh,
Yeah,
dude. Awesome.
so I'm kind of excited for that.
Yeah, that is going to be really fun. You're going to enjoy it. Tri-State's really a cool track. The shots here are obviously of Royce Payton in the Nightmare Mustang, and then Brian Havlik's 55 or 6. I can't remember what I think it's 55 on it. I mean, I don't know if he's racing it this weekend. I know he's putting it on. It's going to be tough to race and do that. But this is a tribute race to kind of the event that started all of this drag and drive stuff way back in the day. So in 1992, Comp Cams and Hot Rod Magazine got together, hosted this big prove you have the fastest street car in the nation race. I mean, 20 or 30-mile drive. I mean, all this kind of stuff they had to do, right? So it's going to be pretty neat to go back and kind of talk with some of those racers. If you guys haven't listened to it and you're going to have some windshield time over the next few days, go find episode 34 of the Dorkomotive podcast and listen to Brian Loans kind of tell the history of it, but also interview a lot of the racers and promoters and all the people that put on all of that stuff. So you need to do that. It's a great one. It's about 2 hours, but it's one of the best listens that's out there. Oh, what's Reggie Moore talking about here?
Keith Roberts is bringing 4 famous cars. He's one cool dude and a good friend of mine. He would be great to have on your show. He is full of stories from the OG time.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely talk to Keith while we're up there. And I'm adding him to the list now of folks to have a conversation with. That's about the only way I can remember that, because once I see race cars, it's hard to remember who all we needed to talk to. So yeah, Keith Roberts picking up 4 cars that are like super historical within this race as well, but also street cars as well. So they're like a lot of like, that 55 to 57 Chevrolet. It's really a neat deal. If you're not following the Hot Rod by Havliks, you need to go over and do that. But I wanted to run through kind of a list really quickly of who all is going to be there. We didn't do photos of this or anything like that, but Jason Hurley in the Meltdown Firebird. I'm really excited to see him out and about in that car. Royce Payton in the Nightmare Mustang we talked about. Tina and Dave Pierce are bringing the Nova up. They're actually probably on their way now. Big Block Bob in the Nova from Rocky Mountain Race Week. Bill Schwartz in the Chevelle from Drag Week and Race Week and Sick Week and all this stuff. Mark Grote in the little green Gremlin. He's coming up. Nick Cryer in the Divco Milk Truck. Dwayne Rule in the Mustang, Adam Crago in the Nova, Terry Miller in the huge block naturally aspirated Firebird that runs like 7s. Fast Eddie Inzer, currently the quickest NA car on the Drag and Drive list, and then Alan Whitaker in the Monte Carlo, and a ton of other people. They limited the entry to 300, and so I would imagine we're fixing to pull up to well close to 300 or more cars as we get there. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be wild.
Yeah. So Friday is tech, starts at noon and then runs until whenever. And then kind of like after that or during that, we're going to do some, bench racing, hanging out, adult beverages, consumage, and just kind of have some fun on Friday. That's why Eric and I are both getting there Friday, because it's all race all day on Saturday. It ought to be pretty intense.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will be there with my camera taking pictures. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
There's going to be tons of cool cars to get photos of. I'm so excited to get there and get all the pictures. They're going to be fantastic. I don't know who else is going to be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, tons of folks.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Yeah. I see Dan Chandler's comment. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. You have to put it up on the screen. We'll talk about it in just a second as well.
All right.
Stephen Narksner saying that's going to be awesome. It for sure is. I wish he was going with me.
Yep. And also this weekend, Sick Powerfest is going to be going on. So Thursday night, which is tomorrow night, they're hosting the Hops and Horsepower Burnout competition is going to be going on, right?
So hops and horsepower is kind of like cars and coffee, from what I gather.
That's right. He did say, but there is
Yep.
going to be
Oh, yeah.
Australians were going to be there.
Yep. And
That's
I think I put the notes in wrong. That's tonight. That's if if somebody's watching this in Detroit, let us know.
mm. Oh yeah,
Or
the
Oxford, Michigan. Yeah, it's tonight. Yeah.
Yep, August 7th. So
Yeah.
dang. So that should be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should have seen if anybody was there that wanted to jump on tonight too and do a
Yeah.
walkthrough there. That'd have been cool.
Yep.
But yeah, again, the Powerfest is going on this weekend. That's going to be Friday with the Burnout competition, the Dodge Drift Thrill Rides and Chargers, Demon 170 Drag Pass Ride-alongs. So I have not been to the Powerfest. It's definitely on my radar as a event to go to because it seems like it's a good time. I know Jay and Brian are going to be there.
Yep.
There's a ton of people that are going to this as well.
Yeah, it should be pretty awesome. And then I figured I would bring in some of the photos from the World Burnout Championship competition. I think this is one of the first times anybody's done this level of gathering people from all over the world. It's like $25,000 to win.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a big deal. So I don't know who Craig Bailey is, but Kyle Douglas runs the Lucifer Toyota Tacoma. That truck is like next level, wins all the time in Australia and all that stuff. I see Richard Edward here saying the Skids for Kids crew is going to be there for Burnouts as well. That's right. And our Hidden Motorsports team buddies are bringing the box truck out there, going to be doing that. Randall Torres and the little S10, and then Travis Meehan in what looks like an old Rolls Royce or Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then Weston Chaplin in the blown Mustang. So that should be pretty fun to see all that. Obviously, we're going to be watching that later because we're not going to be there. Yes. Let's talk about what Reggie Moore's saying here. So Alex Taylor, yes, is out on Bonneville right now, and she just broke a record. So she now has been 200 miles an hour on the drag strip and 200 plus miles an hour on the salt. She broke the record, which means she gets a red hat, but then also like destroyed it. It was like 224 miles an hour was the old record, and she went 235 or something like that, almost 236.
Yep.
And then Keith Turk and Tanya Turk she was in their Camaro, and then of course the whole team, her dad Dennis, her mom, her sister, and then Nick Taylor went out there. I mean, there's a whole group. Nolan from Iski Cams was out there. I mean, it was like this whole thing, and I'm so excited for her. That's pretty awesome to kind of mark that off a bucket list for her. And I'm pretty sure we're probably going to see her doing a lot more land speed type stuff too.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah. Moving on, the Nostalgia Nights is postponed until 2025. Saw this, somebody made a post 2 days ago, something like that, about it being postponed. I looked on the Nostalgia Nights page and didn't see anything yet, but I'm sure that the promoter is trying to work through talking to all the folks and do all that because this was supposed to happen next weekend. So pretty close timing, but still should have plenty of time to cancel, hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, look for it to be back in 2025. And then Dragway Rush is our next event that's coming up. It is obviously the one that's in Canada. So we went from having several events in August to now our next one up is Dragway Rush, which made a post. They've been posting great. Those guys are doing a good job of keeping everybody updated. I would like to see some racer hero card type stuff. I want to see who's coming. I want to see what's coming, what kind of cars are going to be there, and all that kind of stuff. Again, it's their first time to do this, and the only drag and drive event in the eastern part of Canada. So kind of cool.
Yep, that's going to be neat.
Yep, and then obviously the week after that the month after that is crazy. We've got
the craziest, the one craziest week probably of all times, with 3 national level events happening on the same week.
I mean, it's pretty wild that timing would end up like that for not just 2 events, which I could see, but for all 3 events to, oh man, the only time the track can have this open is September 15th through 22nd. That's the only week we have available for you guys to be able to put all this together. So I think everybody knows my feelings about this. It's sad that we're going to be pulled so thin as far as drag and drive commentators, drag and drive, people that are out there gathering all of this content, because it's going to be tough. I mean, you can only be at one event, and sadly, the weekend of that all of that ends, I'll be in Kansas City doing the biggest pro mod race in history. So the entire week is pretty wild for the whole time. So Redwood Rally, Hot Rod Drag Week, and Race Week are all the same week, sometime following between the September 15th and 22nd.
How
But
many cars is that going to be at one time?
dude, that's almost 900 cars.
That's
So
wild.
race week is sold out. Drag week sold out. Redwood Rally sold out. I think they may have capped at 250 this year. I think they were 200 last year. I think they went to 250 this year. So 850 cars.
So there's
Yeah.
going to be 850 race cars driving from track to track that week.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be 3,000 plus miles of street miles driven that week by hot rods across the country. And this is really one of the first times we've had this happen in the States. We've had this happen in with an event being in the US and another event being somewhere else in the world. But this should really have a lasting impact on drag and drive being this close, so or being right on top of each other, really, sadly. So hopefully they can get that sorted out for 2025, and we can maybe make a run at going to 2 events in a row. So
Reggie says send him out, he'll cover it.
Yeah, I wish, buddy. I wish, believe me, you'd be a perfect one for it. Yeah, imagine gallons of fuel used. That's a great thought from Aaron Roberts. So let's do the math real quick. So you have 3,000 miles by, well, let's see, you'd have, let's say, an average of 1,000 miles per event, and you're going to have 280 cars. Now, I'll do that math after this, but that's a great one for Saturday morning. I'll make that note here now, because that's a great thing to think about. But also, not just the fuel, the food, the gas station stops, the souvenir stops, the burnouts, the tire manufacturers that are going to get tires purchased after this. The entire economy of scale from hosting 850 drag and drive racers. So, you also have Road Week. I didn't think about Road Week. You got, I'm sure Redwood Rally, they do something like that as well. And you got the drag pack from Hot Rod Drag Week. I know Redwood Rally does. I just can't remember what they call their road weekers. So pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Yeah. Huh. All righty. Well, that's fun. That's always fun to work through. I do want to go through a couple pictures here real quick from King of the Open Road, which happened this last weekend. Jared Holt is getting me the list of winners and all that kind of stuff, class winners and everything like that. So again, not your traditional drag and drive in the sense that they drive and then they're at the track to race, but obviously 150 cars coming out's a big deal. They shut the whole town of Sapulpa, Oklahoma down for them. So a couple winners here as we go through. Oh, yep, literally just a couple. So you've got Jacoby Betts and Michael Hollis and his family. And I had this guy's name written down, but it's on my sheet inside. So congratulations to all of them. The King of the Open Road's a really cool deal. They have like a crown and a chair and throne and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Aaron Roberts and drag and drive racers will be stimulating the economy for sure.
And Jared Holt here himself.
Perfect. Yep. Sweet. Well, I'm excited about some stuff. He called me yesterday about some stuff that's going on for Coder 2025, and I can't wait till we make those announcements. It's going to be a good deal. There's a lot of good things happening at King of the Open Road. All righty. I'll do the Molly Motorsports ad read, and then we can jump into that stuff. Attention high performance enthusiasts and racers, meet the Molly Motorsports Power Pack Kit, your ultimate solution for power packed performance. The Power Pack pistons are made from either 4032 aluminum alloy to allow for tighter cylinder to wall clearances and improved temperature stability, or 2618 alloy to allow for increased detonation resistance. Tailored for various engine families from small block Chevrolet to Volkswagen and Audi, Molly has you covered. What sets them apart? Forged pistons, Grafal coating, and phosphate treatment for peak performance and durability. Elevate your ride with Molly Motorsports, where performance meets precision. Visit mollymotorsport.com for more details. For the podcast listeners, Molly is spelled Mahle. Alrighty.
I
Well,
did see somebody on Facebook asking how to pronounce this. I forget who it was, but definitely made me laugh.
yeah, and we had to do that early on, to Eric Grillo and the team over there. It's like, how do you even say this? How
Right.
does this even work? So yeah, Bob Ruppel's here saying 900 cars times 1,000 miles per event's 900,000 miles. Wow,
Wild.
that's pretty intense, man. Well, I want to talk about this for just a second. So Dane Thompson posted over on the Bomb Squad Facebook group. He what do you think would help grow the sport of drag and drive? And I know this only says 3 comments, but there was about 18 of them. So, won't you run through just one of the replies, and then I'll go into the other one.
Yep. Adam Dory replied, and he said, "We need more tracks to link some unused areas of the country. The sport itself is thriving, but for some, it's getting boring seeing the same stuff in tracks because it's hard. It's a hard thing getting 4 tracks that are good enough to run 6-second cars, will open on a weekday, and are in reasonable distance to the next track."
Yeah, those are great points. Great points. And that's the struggle, right? It's because you have to have something that can run the absolute fastest cars,
Yeah.
or they're coming. And they want to play as much as everybody else does.
Right.
And then Eli Gould's reply was more pizza parties and go-kart racing. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. We're definitely working on that. But seriously, more ways the racers can hang out between tracks. He said, I don't know how to integrate heads-up racing into drag and drive, but there's an idea somewhere. Rocky Mountain Race Week has their shootout, which is awesome in my opinion, and that's true as well. So I really like the way John Paul Franks does the heads-up hustle. With you kind of get a little bit of that both. You get 2 days at 2 different tracks to set your averages, and then you go into a shootout to set your standings. Sorry, in the ladder, and then you go into a shootout on the last day. Is that I mean, that's kind of what they do for Rocky Mountain Race Week, except they gather all the other cars up. So John Paul Franks is like doing it per class, and then Rocky Mountain Race Week is doing it for everybody. So they take the 8 fastest, the next 8 fastest, the 16th fastest, all that kind of stuff to then run everyone heads up, which is really cool, especially when you have 300 cars. So then they run
Right.
a bracket for everybody else. So I don't know. This made me reach out to Dane Thompson and see if he wanted to be on. We have a huge show for next week, visiting with the Havliks, and so for episode what would be 79, we're going to have Dane on and talk kind of about the state of the union with the sport. What does he see? What does he think? The Bomb Squad has kind of turned into a lot of drag and drive comments and posts about it within the Bomb Squad Facebook group. So, if you're not part of that, that's another one you need to join as well. So, a lot of good conversations that he's having over there. But yeah, visiting more tracks would be really good. And
Hmm.
I don't know. Are we going to see a run for smaller events at smaller tracks?
Yeah.
I think everybody can get in where they fit in. I feel like the folks that have been following this for a long time feel like, man, there's so many events that are out there already. Are we getting saturated? And I've been preaching it, dude. I don't think we're getting saturated at all. There's 400 tracks in the U.S. and we will literally visit what 70 of them this year, maybe something like
Yeah.
that. So there's huge swaths of the country that don't have a drag and drive at all at
Hmm.
all, like Arizona, Texas. Well, Texas has Rocky Mountain Racing, but um, yeah, Arizona, New Mexico, California has one. Now so I think we can overlap some, but we can definitely add some. Because for a weekend event, you only need 2 or 3 tracks, 50
Dragway
cars.
rush.
Shoo, coast to
Coast
coast
to
drag and
coast.
drive. I think they do that. I think it's called the Gumball Rally, or a Cannonball Run. Um, I don't know. There's so much that's available. It's hard to not dive in and host 10 events a year. I mean, you could really break off and probably do that and have small events. Say you go 50 to 100 cars, and I don't know. it's completely possible. I'm working on something that would help grow at a small track too. So we'll know more on that in the coming weeks. Eric don't even know about that yet.
I was
So
gonna say this is news to me.
yeah, so
If
it's
you
coming.
if,
I promise.
if you guys think that just because I'm the co-host, I'm privy to some information, there's things that I have no clue of what he's doing behind the scenes.
Well, and it's only because I'm all over the place. It's not because I run everything by Eric. It's like because I'm like, shoom, shoom, ideas, ideas, ideas. Anyways, um, I'm excited about where the sport can go and how we can see that, how we can see so many more people involved in it. And again, like so many people have said, can we make regional events almost like a feeder event to a national event? National events are so hard to get into. If you're not there in 3 minutes, you're not in, you're on the wait list. So you know, could you pair up with a Rocky Mountain Race Week or a SICTA magazine or something like that? And say your class winners get guaranteed entry into the big event. They don't have to, they don't have to get it for free, but they could get guaranteed entry. So they are guaranteed to have a spot, you know,
Yep.
things like that. Like we're not even to that next level of thinking with this. So,
Right. Aaron
right.
Roberts has a
No, go ahead.
good point here too. He says more young people need to be
Mhm.
exposed to the events. Blaine is a perfect example of coming up in the drag and drive community.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a great dude. I love Blaine. I love Tom. The whole family, the whole Stark family are amazing. Bringing those kids in and getting like that are great. Oh man, Dan Chandler here. This is a great one. Maybe even some one day events that have a drive with cool checkpoints and an evening race with more heads up type races with more classes to get even more slower cars excited about a chance to win. Yep. Hey, you remember that time we made that post about could a slow car event work?
Yeah.
And how it just that went off the deep end bad.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but one day events are definitely something. Like right now, there's only one or two of those that are out there. You have the Battle of the Streets in Central Georgia with Mike Mayo. Cruise and Lose is doing that one October 5th. That is a single day event. That's like a 50 or 70 mile drive to get people out and about and be doing that kind of stuff. So it's going to be cool. I'm excited to see what the future can bring, and I know that one day events are definitely a way to get there, and just also you're getting people out and about in their race cars, man. That's what we need. Well,
Yeah.
that is our Molly Motorsports segment for today. George and Eric at Molly are awesome. They're not just sponsors; they are also competitors. Eric in his black stick shift Nova, and George in his Duster. I mean, great dudes, great on all that stuff. Well, let's talk about the Drag and Drive World Champion 2024. Obviously, the second year in this. This is becoming bigger and bigger. And I want to say thank you. Big shout out to Devin and the team at Southeast Street Meet. They have signed on to let the 2024 champion have a free entry into the 2025 Street Meet event, just like they did for Bryant Goldstone, who won it in 2023, who looks like he may win it again in 2024. Bro's the only guy that's gone three national events so far this year, and has won and set records at has won all three, his class and everything, and then set records at two of the three. So pretty awesome. And I think he's planning on doing drag week, and I don't know if he's doing street meet again or not, but pretty impressive. And it hadn't been given to him at all. So there's opportunity for somebody to come in and be really close to this, but it's going to take a real run. It needs to be a 6-second car that is capable of breaking a record in that class, and they need to do 2 events because I don't see anybody that's on this list that can get there. So the race for the 850 championship, points championship, which is first for this year, and the 10-0 championship, another first for 2024. The 850 championship is tight, dude. Tight, tight, tight. So Randy Seward is leading by 1 point because he reset the record at Sick Week with the 275 street race class in for 2024. That's the only reason he is 1 point ahead of Brian Acton.
Yep.
So Brian has won his class, but did not reset the record at Sick Week or Sick Summer. But I know Brian and Randy are both going to Drag Week, and Dustin Trance is going to Drag Week, and a few other people are going to Drag Week as well. So the 850 class at Drag Week, Dude, it's going to be intense. It's going to be intense, to say the least. So currently, top 10 are Bryant Goldstone with 116 points. Randy Seward, second place with 73 points. A tie for third between Brian Acton and Guy Pertano at 72 points, in 1 point difference. Brett LaSala in the only racer that's done it in two different cars. He's currently, fourth place with 70 points. Alex Taylor, 69. Jason Pickett, 68. And then a three-way tie between Rovick, Steve Gronick, and Tim Blythe, all at 67 points. And I'll put this up on the website later. But for the 10-0 championship, that's another thing that's going to be a fun thing to watch, because there's only a couple points that separate those guys, right around 60 points. So they're not far out of the top 10 as well. And what's crazier about the 10-0 stuff is you don't get any ET bonus points for going, because we don't provide any points for anything faster than, like, you have to be 9-0 or 999 and faster for additional ET bonus points. So like class wins, all that stuff is going to really play a big part. Like, you may come down to somebody resetting a record at one of the events being what makes the difference. So choose your classes wisely if you are running 10-0 or slower, because the Hot Rod Drag Week SME class, that record is 10-0-3-0 for the week. So that's pretty intense. And then, Rocky Mountain Race Week is in this mix as well. So any of the index classes 10-0 to 14-0 are eligible for that extra ET bonus points, or record setting bonus point. So if you want to see how all the points shake out, how you can get points and all that stuff, it's dragdriverepeat.com/world champion. It's the easiest way to find it. If you have any questions, just message me in there and I'll let you know what's going on. All right. So do you want to do the gentleman's agreement?
Yeah.
I feel like I've just been talking right over the top of you, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's what happens when I take a week off. Gentleman's agreement. Listen, this is saying that we love what we do. It's not easy. It's not cheap. It takes lots of hours putting notes together for the show, gathering stories, going to events. So the gentleman's agreement is we're going to keep doing what we're doing because we love it. We need you guys to like, subscribe, share our stuff. We need everybody following along. We need to share out so that we can reach other race car friends. So that is our gentleman's agreement. And we got to say thanks to our race car friends. So all of you guys in here making comments, watching, listening to the podcast later, you guys are all of our race car friends, and we couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are what keeps us going. Coming to these events like this weekend, we're going to see a bunch of our race car friends. So this is, you guys keep us going. And then we got to thank our sponsors. So without our sponsors, obviously, we can't do a lot of this stuff. So thanks to Summit Racing Equipment, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Change 3D, WAF Racing, Performabuilt Transmission, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Racing Junk, and PowerTube TV. And again, PowerTube TV, we supply them with exclusive content. All of these shows get repackaged and put on to the PowerTube TV app. You can download it on your phone, on your TV. Watch these shows later. Other shows like Pink's All Out. There's a lot of other car-related shows, other podcasters on there. Tons of cool stuff to go check out. And we're going to be supplying them some exclusive content from this Havlik's event as well.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool, man. I'm excited.
All right, so we can jump into the Howard's community segment. We'll play this video, and then we will jump right into this segment.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Harris from the Monoxide Podcast. Real quick, Howard's Cams was founded as a racing cam manufacturer almost 80 years ago when Howard Johansson created Howard's Power and Racing Equipment in 1945. Howard's Cams has always used on-track experience to design the most powerful designs, and today they have an even greater group of experienced racers in circle track, drag racing, road race, mud bog, and marine. They use all this input plus the most advanced computer software to design the most competitive race-winning products. From pioneers in drag racing and oval track to cutting-edge marine development, Howard's Cams is at the forefront of the industry. So make sure to reach out to our friend, Luke B, for your next valve train upgrade.
Luke B's great. Luke, he spec'd me out a cam for the Fox body, so I have a Howard's cam sitting out in the garage currently that's going to get put into the Mustang as soon as I get time to go out there and work on it. Between working in here in the office, going on vacation, my actual job that I have, I'm falling behind a little bit on the car. So hopefully, come fall time, I can get out there and do a little bit more with that.
Yep, that's right. All right, well, let's jump into some of the community updates. Dane Thompson, again, out here making posts for everybody. He posted in the Rocky Mountain Race Weekers about Trevor Wilson and Caleb McGregor road tripping a ramp truck that hadn't ran in like 10 years from California back to Colorado. Basically updated us the entire trip. He was getting updates from them. Where were they at? All that kind of stuff. Said they went through a bunch of fuel filters, which is normal for a truck that's been sitting that long, and a starter. But they ended up making it. They Ubered a starter, I think from like 80 miles or 90 miles away, something like that. They ended up hiring an Uber to pick up the starter and bring it to them. So pretty cool, man.
Wow.
I love stories like that. I think everybody at one point in their automotive career wants to do a roadkill type trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially with
Absolutely.
a ramp truck. How cool is that, man?
Right.
And then next up, Michael Westberg. This is important. I want everybody to listen to me. He's looking for sponsors for the new car because he wants to bring it to America. If you guys will remember, he was the quickest #1 overall car of 2023 in the Drag and Drive national events. And he did that with an S10. This car is even faster. Currently, it's been 4:08, I think, in the 8th mile in street week trim. Y'all, this is a big deal. I don't know if we've seen 390s. Somebody's probably ran in the 390s before, I'm sure, to get down into the low sixes, but that's pretty crazy. 4.0s, first time out for that car. This car is going to be a heavy contender. He's looking for more power, and he's upgraded the turbo and refreshed everything else. So this car will be brand new, looking for sponsors to bring it from Sweden to the U.S. to run his buddy, Stefan Gustafsson, over here. And we know Stefan just is finishing up the Camaro to come over for Sick Week 2025. So can we get this first-gen Camaro and Stefan Gustafsson's second-gen Camaro over here and just let these dudes go wild? Because Stefan was the second quickest last year, right?
I believe it was somewhere there, second or third. He was up there.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And his new car is going to be so fast, so fast.
And it's going to be wild seeing both of those guys in similar looking cars. Like, I'm excited to see them bring those over and compete.
Well, and you talk about such a difference in car quality. The S10 was basically a pro mod, but it was a brick as well. I mean, even though it was lightweight and all that kind of stuff, like it still had a big flat front, still had a big tall windshield, all that kind of stuff. Even though the roof was chopped, like these cars are streamlined. I mean, Camaros are made to go fast, and that's what both these guys drive now. So this is going to be pretty awesome to see these, purpose built cars. Like Stefan's car was built up. It was a fast car when he got it, but it was also, over time built with more power and all that kind of stuff. These cars are basically pro mods essentially.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty awesome.
It sucks seeing what happened to the, Bitter Tears Corvette, but I'm excited to see the new car.
Yeah, this Bitter Tears Camaro is going to make some folks cry. I'm telling you what. Well, Tim Myers had a great question in Rocky Mountain Race Weekers page, and then right after we go through this, we're going to bring on Rod and Ed, Rod Hardner and Ed Hohenberg. So you guys be ready. I see you backstage. Be ready after this. So this was a great topic, I thought, because underhood temps are always such a hard thing to gauge, especially on street cars, and the header wrap isn't always the right answer simply because as much street driving as we all do, rain always helps deteriorate that stuff, makes a huge mess, all that. So you can't necessarily say, oh, we'll wrap it in header wrap and it'll be fine. So Tim Meyer asked about Cerakote on the headers and piping to reduce underhood temps. Devin Vanderhoof, who's the picture here on the right, said that it works good and will hold up if done right. And that was basically the consensus. Bill Leake says it works, but not as well as turbine blankets and wrap as far as underhood temp. But again, you end up with some wet wrap and you could have some real struggles on your hand as time goes on. But the consensus seemed to be that you need to pay somebody to do it or really, really take your time, because it takes a ton of prep ahead of time to do the Cerakote and it stay. So a lot of guys were name dropping Tim Taylor or something like that in the comments. So if you are on Rocky Mountain Race Weekers, you can just search for Tim Meyer and see that whole thread. I think there's like 30 different comments on there talking about it and all that kind of stuff. But Cerakote, it looks so good. Oh, didn't mean to hit that. Looks so good. I mean, look at the black there.
Oh, it does. It looks real nice.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's wrapped headers before, it is a complete pain in the ass to wrap them and work around them, because you're rubbing your arm on it. It itches. Like, there's, besides keeping the temperature down, there's nothing good about header wrap. So if there's an alternative that works as good or better, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah. The time involved in wrapping headers is over the top, especially like when you look at this turbo setup he's got. Like, can you imagine wrapping that?
No, it'd be miserable.
Yeah. No thanks on that. So, well, let's bring in these guys here. So the plan is these guys are longtime drag and drive racers. They've been around for a very long time. We're going to talk about all that. These guys sent us a bunch of pictures, so we're going to do it a little bit differently tonight. We're going to run through, basically let them tell stories about these pictures as we come up, and we'll have conversations. Eric, I will give you a warning. We got one bar on my service, so maybe in and out a little bit. I don't know what's going on. 7:45. My kids aren't home yet, so I don't know. Well, let's bring these guys in. Gentlemen, how are y'all this evening?
Wonderful. Long live ramp trucks, by the way. Yeah.
Yes. Ramp trucks are where it's at, man. I'm telling you. Well, guys, introduce yourself. Tell us which one you are, as how you're sitting, and all that.
I'm Ed Hohenberg. I have way too many cars, and I decided to drag and drive all of them at some point.
How many jack stands do you have? Yeah.
I own a lot of jack stands.
I'm Rod Harder, Rodney Harder, whatever. We're both YouTube channel guys, but just love cars. Went from street scene to dirt track racing, full contact sport, to the drag strip, and then, as you've said many times, Mike, do a drag drive, it'll change your life, and it did 3 years ago for me. It was fantastic. I can't stop.
Yeah, drag and drive is the best for sure. Well, guys, I'm going to ask everybody, do one thing for us. Hit the share button as we get in here with these guys. There's a lot of stories. You guys sent me a lot of pictures. I'm excited about this. But give us a shout out for your YouTube channels right now. Tell us where they can find you guys.
So my YouTube channel is NHRA Stock, one word, and I'm still waiting to get a cease and desist letter from NHRA on that. So I've already got a handle, the Performance Laboratory, if that happens.
For myself, it's Rodney's with a capital R, then an underscore, and capital R again. Rodney's Rods. It's a shelf company I have that every year we talk about activating. We haven't so far, but I got the rights to all the names, so that's me.
That's awesome. Well, I dropped that down in the comments there so everybody can see that over in the chat. So when you're looking at this, make sure you guys can pause it and go over there and subscribe to those channels as well. Well, let's get into this, y'all. You guys are longtime drag and drive fans, longtime drag and drive racers. I know that Ed has done this longer because he sent some pictures from like 2017 and 18. So I want to go walk us back that, man. What made you get into drag and drive? What made you do your first one and all that kind of stuff?
So I remember reading Hot Rod magazine coverage of the first drag week.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, it was like January, December issue, whatever it was. And I remember thinking, this is the coolest thing ever. At that point, I was disillusioned with NHRA already. So I'd walked away from, I used to run NHRA stock and super stock. And And so I'd been away from drag racing for competitive drag racing for a couple of years. And I just thought that idea was just brilliant. And I became addicted to it. And so every year I was following it, and I, would just seek out any information. I was all over social media following it, got to know like all the original OG players. And every year I dreamt of going myself. The problem was I was working at the college back then, and trying to get a week off in September was just not something that was possible. So when I ended up, and I was working part-time at the university already and full-time at the college, when the university offered me a full-time job in 2012, I started looking at the schedule and thinking, I might be able to move things around and actually squeak a week out in September. So I tried to enter in 2013, not realizing that, it sells out like in hours. So by the time I found out that registration had opened that day, it was all sold out. 2014, I did register, but I never got there because, that's a whole story in itself. 2015, registered the GTO as my Plan B car, and Plan B failed me, and I decided I was going to go anyway, so I took Plan C. Anyway, so there's been a lot of Plan C's, D's, E's, and I think I'm up to F now along the way. But 2015 was the first year that I finally actually got there.
Wow, man, 2015, that's a long time. So you'll be, this is your 10th year of doing some kind of drag and drive stuff. That's pretty amazing, man. And then you guys are from Canada, but you said Winnipeg, right? I have no idea where that's at. So tell me in relation to where that's at. And
if you take a map of Canada and you stick your finger right in the middle of it, that's basically where we are.
Yeah.
So 1,000 miles from everything.
Wow. So that adds a little bit of extra complexity to it as well. So you can't just, it's not like somebody living like Eric in Illinois or me in Arkansas, where you're 200 miles from an event.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot of things actually, because then your parts places, that kind of stuff, they're all spread out a little bit more too, right? So, and if you run a weird combination like I do with an old FE motor with dual carbs and that kind of stuff, you got to bring a lot of parts, like, because nobody's going to have anything, right? That's also fun. But Winnipeg, so Winnipeg, also known as Winterpeg because of our minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 months in a row, and a little better for 3 weeks on either shoulder of that. Means we build a lot of cars in winter. Okay, that's what we do around here. Okay, because it's cold, and so Ed never talked beforehand. We both each have 13 cars, which is kind of funny. We didn't even realize that about each other.
Wow, 13 cars, dude. That gives me anxiety.
I keep thinking there's another one I should buy. So,
Freiberger said your next car project is going to solve all your problems.
I just bought like 11 blowers. Okay.
11.
Yeah, at an auction sale. I don't know what I was thinking.
One for each car.
Yeah. So anyway, so we do crazy things out here, but there's some people around here that you probably all know. I mean, the Schrader Ents team is from Winnipeg. Okay,
that's awesome.
With their blue Corvettes. Sheldon Root is from Winnipeg. Okay, he of Sick Week fame and Las Vegas Motor Speedway fame and all kinds of things, right? Kyle Omala. I mean, he won your, what do you call it? Roadside Warrior Award last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so he's from around here, right? And a couple of guys that did really well on Miles of Mayhem this year are from here, and guys that did well in the past are from here. So there's a little circle of car culture, and we're talking before about all the car clubs we have.
We have like 6 months of winter here, so we try and cram a lot into the summer that we have because it's so short, and we have so many car people here and so many car clubs. We actually had to create an umbrella organization to organize all of the car clubs so that they wouldn't all have car shows on the same weekend, kind of thing. So,
that's pretty intense to have everything condensed that deep. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up some pictures that Rod sent me real quick about the winners, because you guys were talking about it. I thought this was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And for folks in the States, we don't understand this, but tell us what's happening here in these photos.
Yeah. Okay. So this has become infamous among the female population around here. I'm in a doghouse lot, but anyway. So what happened one day? I mean, picture the scene. It's February. Okay, so you've lived through. November's cold, December's even colder, but you get Christmas. January, it's brutally cold, and by February, you've got the cabin fever to build a car real bad. So, picture on the far left. My wife went off to work at an orphanage in Mexico, to help them out for 2 weeks, and very noble of her, right? And so she left me and 3 boys unsupervised in the process. And said to me, renovate the family room. And I said, okay, I'll get started on that. So a couple of days later, I pulled out the rug, right? And then I thought, I've got a plywood floor that's in a heated room with a fireplace and a big patio door. And I've got a rare low mileage and low production V8 outside that needs to work, right? So and I have a toboggan, okay?
And the wife's not home.
Yeah, nobody's going to say anything, right? So we went and wrestled this V8 on the toboggan, dragged it up the snow hill we made to get onto the patio and the deck in the back, and then into the house, and then, brought in, like the engine stand and a crane and all that stuff, and we had a party. So, and you see on the right-hand side there's my son, the owner of that engine now, which is actually sitting in the car beside us here. Just got installed after he blew it up racing it. Good. That's my boy. And I called up my friends and everybody came over, and it was great until I realized I've only got 2 days left, and the machine shop can't take the disassembled engine yet because they haven't got room, and my wife's coming home, right? So what am I going to do? So I went and bought a bunch of flowers, put them on top of the engine in the room, and she came home and says, "What is that?" Anyway, so that's what happened. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a great story. Well, let's let this lead us into some. Lead us into I would say your top 3 project cars, because some cars are obviously they're waiting on special parts or whatever. But what are both of y'all's? What are your top 3 project cars right now?
I have these cars that are supposed to be done so that I can work on the next project, but they somehow seem to break themselves overnight. Yeah, I keep working on things that I'm not supposed to be working on, and the true project car never gets any attention or any love. So my 68 Epic is the project that I should be working on.
British car, yeah.
Canadian only brand, Envoy Epic, basically a Vauxhall Viva. And the GTO tends to break itself a lot, so I'll work on that thing a lot. And my old super stock Mustang is probably the other thing that would be my top 3. Yeah.
For me, all my 3 boys have the same disease, so they all have a nice car. So we work on those regularly. So behind me is my 65 Mercury Comet Caliente with a 427 4-barrel, dual 4-barrel car. If anybody's watched Ford versus Ferrari, that Ford block is what's in here, and we're trying to make that old dinosaur fantastic.
Yeah,
so
the E stands for Edsel.
It does. But anyway, so yeah, not new technology, but there's more parts available now than ever has been. So it's kind of fun. Then I've got other boys' cars, 67 Cyclone GT, pretty rare actually. That I've got one side with a 68 Mercury Cougar, really nice car, and another side with a 68 Ford Torino GT Fastback.
You got to limit yourself to 3.
3. Okay, so that's it. Other than that, I got a Henry J that needs to be into a gasser, and whatever else. Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of Ford stuff.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I've owned all kinds of stuff, but I kind of landed there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got more Fords than anything else too.
Huh.
That's funny. It's gonna be a race to 14, I think, for you guys. We'll see. Keep us updated on who ends up with the 14th car first. All right. Well, let's run into some of these pictures. So This is a little different style for us. We typically will have like this big long script that we send out, but we didn't this time because you guys are part of the show. You watch and comment all the time. So I figured we would have some fun with this and tell us, like, we're going to, the first set of pictures I have are Rod. So it'll be some of the stuff he sent. I'm sure Ed has some stories within this, but and then we'll get into Ed's pictures at the end. So what happened?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So this is embarrassing, but why not? Tell everybody about it, right? So day 1, Miles of Mayhem, right? We're going down the road and you're going to see an ugly little, but innovative and interesting transmission oil cooler. It's overheating. It's not doing the job we wanted because I used to have one that was way too big. Okay. And where cooling issues are always an issue. So we decided to downsize and at last minute built something out of, well, you'll see shortly. So anyway, it's overheating. It's not working. And my expensive transmission, I wanted to, let it cool down. So I decided to exit stage right. And just because I have dual carbs poking through the hood, I did not see a little section of curb in between the two driveways. I thought it was just one big driveway. So I thought, well, that's very convenient. So I turned to the right to pull in there. I said to my co-pilot, Dave, I'm just going to pull in here, right? And when I was fully committed and going this direction, he yells, "No, oil pan, curb." And it was like, just like when you were kids and you're trying to learn how to skateboard and you hit a little pebble and all of a sudden everything goes into ultra slow motion. That's what happened. Okay. So, so now I take a quick look at Dave and I see he is just cringed on the passenger seat, look of horror on his face. And so I turn back forward. I go, I haven't got room to maneuver. I can only do a little bit. I don't know which way to go. So I move the steering wheel slightly. That's all I can do, right? And then crunch. And we get launched up over this little curb, but I could not see because of my stuff poking through the hood. So so we launched up, but the rear wheels just went fine because they just passed this little curb because it was winding, right? So I go to the parking lot, come to a dead stop, whip open the door, check underneath, looking for the Exxon Valdez evidence I just destroyed everything, and nothing, not even a spot, right?
Wow.
So I yell, "It's okay," right? And Dave, being the co-pilot, comes out and inspects it more thoroughly and shows a picture we have here where the header sacrificed itself to save the day. I still don't know by turning whichever way I turned if I helped it or hindered it, but regardless. So, I'm sitting there holding tight on the wheel, and in my slow motion thinking, I go, I'm going to exit day 1 for the stupidest reason in the world.
Because I drove over a curb.
And I wasn't mad at the cost. Yeah, I wasn't mad at the cost. I wasn't mad at, anything else, but the lack of adventure was what I was most upset about that I might have.
Yeah.
Right. So then we pull in there. Everything's good. We decide to change that stupid oil cooler, which you have a picture of somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
And because it wasn't doing its job. Okay.
You mean this one?
Can you flip? Yeah, there it is. Look at that thing of beauty. Okay. So that is just
so
before
many
we
questions.
left. What is it you say? Okay, I'll explain this. Okay. So that is, again, we used to have one that was really high, went all the way across the rad. It was blocking a third of the radiator. And we thought, well, we can't use that. We know it's not, it's overdone. My oil temperature never hit above the peg. It stayed there the whole time, which is actually not good for your transmission, right? Well, we need something little. We need something quick. We're about to leave for Miles of Mayhem, right? Which is 8 hours away. So let's create something. So I go home to do something. I come back and I see that my fittings from my nice, long, and expensive oil cooler is turned into this. Okay. So, but let's talk about this for a moment because, when you get delegated something to do, you want your boss or wife or whatever to say, just do it. You make the decisions. Let's go. Right. Yep. So I come and I look at this and I go, well, I'm not sure that's going to be enough. Right. It doesn't look good, but it's behind the grill. It's made out of eavesdropping, metal from a eaves trough. right? And it's copper
like it.
piping that was taken out because my co-pilot Dave had too much hard water and had this old pipe laying around, and it worked. It flowed. There was no leaks, right? So we tried it, but it wasn't up to the task, right? Which maybe was predictable. But if I delegate Dave to keep the car running, if I delegate that, I shouldn't be second guessing everything. That's good delegation, right? That's how I ended up with that. So, by the way, he's willing to sell those things if anyone else wants one. So,
yeah, you can own this piece of history right here. That's awesome. Well,
so then what we do?
Oh man, yeah. Tell us.
Okay, then what we do is just before we left, I wasn't so sure this would last, right? So I go looking through my son with a '68 Torino GT, which his motor's out because he blew it up last year at Miles of Mayhem and doing some doing some other stuff too with it. So anyway, he hadn't put in his oil cooler yet for the transmission. So I snagged that real quick and stole it, right? So no problem. We're going to take this out. We're going to put this in. So we decide, we'll phone our road buddy, who's going to meet somewhere else and travel together to the first leg. And by the way, for you guys that are new, always try and find a road buddy. It's so good to have somebody who's mobile if you're not, right? And so we had this radiator, this little oil cooler. We said, let's move it. Let's do it real quick. We'll do it so that by the time they get back to us, we're done. We can just go, right? Because now instead of getting to the hotel at 10, maybe we'll get there at 10:30, right? So the goal was to be quick. So we NASCAR pit stopped this thing to death, right? And we got this thing out. The fittings were the same. We put them on there real quick. It was a little bit cockeyed and a little bit higher, but we turned everything on, right? Pressure, it had good pressure. So we're grabbing tools, and I had tools in one hand, and there's my son. That's where it went. Yeah. Anyway, so then I slammed the hood down with the other free hand I have, and all of a sudden, to my utter disbelief, there's a blood red fountain of transmission fluid blowing out all over my grill. And I'm like, what? This is impossible. It was working. All I did was close the hood. Well,
real transmissions don't need coolers.
Whatever. So then, that thing lasted 20 seconds of runtime.
Oh.
So there we are in a parking lot, gone through 2 coolers, if you can call that a cooler, which you can. It worked for a while. And then, now everything's closed. What are we going to do? So shout out to Hardcore Performance Specialties. I gave them a call on the cell number, and they opened up the store for me. They had one left that would fit. And we put it on, this time being real careful, not really NASCAR pit stopping it so quickly. and we got on the road, and we got into Edmonton at 1:22 in the morning. So
there you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, as many pictures as we have here, I don't know if we can go into that detail on the rest of these because there's a lot of really cool stuff we got to get to. Okay. All right, here we go. Tell us what the heck is going on here. So we're looking at a torn up radiator and the front end of an old. Is that a race car, stock car? What is happening?
Stock car, old dirt track stock car. Okay.
Sweet.
So, 1993, 1995, won some races, got a lot of dings and damage, but it's full contact. So what do you expect, right? So
right.
Night before we leave, we're putting the shroud on this. We decided to go with a mechanical fan, and I'm curious what your listeners are gonna say. Sometimes you got to choose between reliability and maybe use a bit of horsepower, or just the least horsepower loss possible, right? So I'm curious what they're thinking, right? Like, we decided to try a mechanical fan for the reliability and least problem, right? Mm-hmm. Well, anyway,
how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, well, yeah. So we're putting the shroud on, and either an errant tool or a screw that was in too far caught one of the fan that was actually out of the old stock car, and bent it right into the red. This is late at night before we leave. So what are we going to do?
Oh,
We pulled the 50-year-old radiator out of a 74 Lincoln Continental 460 out of the stock car with 30-year-old rad hoses and put them in the car and said, okay, well, now we know why we're going to die, but let's go as long as we can. Okay.
yeah. Hey, how did it make it?
It made it. It made it.
Dude, that's
all the way.
awesome.
And it was
That's
hot.
Oh, yeah. In Fahrenheit, it was between 82 and 102 degrees Fahrenheit all week. So we're not
Wow.
easy on it.
Wow. That's intense, man. That's pretty awesome to survive that. Well, this is one of the coolest tips I think I've come across. And so essentially you send me a picture of like an orange F-150, I guess, and you said pro tip. If you are going to pull into a parking lot with a car needing parts, look for a Home Depot. They rent trucks for $25 for an hour and a half. That's genius. I had never even thought about that, but yeah, that's really smart. So I'm thinking this comes from a good story.
Yeah. Remember I said travel with a road buddy. We were doing that. The road buddy, muffler blew up. I've never seen that before in my life. Okay? So it blew up. We needed to pull up aside, and plus there was all kinds of issues with the fuel system. My car was overheating. Okay, so we pulled to the parking lot. My car's overheating. We need parts. It's going to close soon, as far as the speed shop goes, because they're moving that weekend. And so we're looking around, and my co-pilot Dave says, "Hey, Home Depot rents trucks, right? We're in that parking lot." So we went and rented one quickly. Went and got parts, got some ice cream, came back, and 9 minutes to spare. But the fun part is that we decided to turn off the air conditioning because it would spoil us. Okay.
Yeah. Don't get middle of the week and turn the air conditioning on in the rental truck.
You can't get used to that stuff.
Yeah, not a good idea. Well, what's going on here? Is this is this the Comet? No. What is this?
Yeah, that's the Comet. Yeah, that's the Comet running. I spent money in getting the same wheels for the trailer just for fun. Could have spent it on a better cooling system, I suppose, or something else. But I reject taking the hood off. One guy in the parking lot there, you don't see in the picture. This is how committed drag and drive racers are, right? He had cooked both electric fans in his car. So their plan was just to drive and stop and wait. Drive and stop and wait. The remaining 3 hours to get to the checkpoint. So we went to our hotel. We made it there after our road buddy hit a coyote. By the way, lots of wildlife in Canada, which makes it interesting. So and at 3:30 in the morning, I hear this rumble in the parking lot, and the next morning I'll get up and look, and there's the car. They made it, but it's just the sacrifices people make.
Yeah, it's wild, and that reminds me of the story of Hank Kronk, who drove that time with like $400 worth of ice. Like they were stopping every 20 miles to put ice on the engine. Yeah, that's pretty intense. So
the guys
in the notes you sent, sorry, go ahead.
So the guys in the Ranchero that he was talking about that, hit the coyote, then fixed it, found another fender or whatever, brought the old fender for everybody to sign, and then they ended up, blowing up the engine like a few days later, so they never finished. But Miles of Mayhem had a contest through Drumheller. There's big dinosaur statues or whatever. Like so, the most popular picture with the dinosaurs, was worth I think $200 or something. So they the Ranchero guys took a picture. They had a picture of like deer at the side of the road with the car smashed up, and they photoshopped a dinosaur like a T-Rex. So it's like they smoked a T-Rex on the side of the road, and that's what caused the damage. It was priceless.
That's pretty awesome. Well, in the notes here, you said you're taking the hood off of the car because your fuel was boiling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And we were watching the fuel pressure go down and then watching the fuel mixture go up. And we're going, okay, something's wrong, right? And of course, when you do this drag and drive, you're looking at things, you're feeling things, you're trying to analyze stuff without looking at anything. You're driving, going,
yeah, you don't want gauges, man. It just costs.
Yeah.
press.
Yeah. And I have 2 gauges, one per bank for the air fuel mixture. So it was double the problem. So then, and I'm saying something, I had to turn it off. So the first gas station we could find, we turned into this, it had cheap fuel, but whatever, we had to do something, right? And we pulled in there, and an hour later, we'd cooled it down. We did, Bell's may have these little spritzer things with the fan on them, and we used that to spritz the, of all things, the fuel pump, because it was boiling in the fuel pump, and that's why the pressure was coming down.
Oh, wow. So do you have is it an electrical or a mechanical pump on that?
Yeah, electrical. Yeah.
Sweet. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. The temp is what has hurt a lot of folks this year, man. The temperatures have been pretty intense with like Rocky Mountain, several days of 100+ degrees. And then this shot here, roadside with the Comet and the GTO says another stop for roadside repair for another racer. So what's going on there? It's a beautiful shot, though. Beautiful. Shot.
Just more fuel issues and cavitation. Just possibly fuel boiling again. But I just took the time to just take it in and try and enjoy the moments too, right? Like the funny thing is, Ed, like when something goes wrong, it's not like, oh no, in some ways it's like, hey, how are we going to solve it?
Well, David Williams was, I don't know, I can't remember if it was this podcast or on Adam Dory's podcast, but when he went to Alaska with the Suburban, he said something that just kind of stuck with me. When you go on something like this, you need to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, when you're doing something like this and stuff goes wrong, you need to find a way to enjoy it.
Yeah. And when you put it that way, like Ed and I both have newer cars that have air conditioning, that have, all kinds of good creature comforts, nice comfy seats, etc. We don't bring those.
Yeah. Well, I did once.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get full value of a drag and drive event, in my mind, you want something that's going to be a challenge, right? So.
Yep, I agree completely, and I think that's like even if you have a late model car, just like you guys not turning the AC on in the rental truck. I mean, kind of take a little bit of that and be uncomfortable for a little bit, because that's what's gonna make you remember that stuff for sure.
Yeah, I lost 5 pounds in Miles Mayhem, and that's good. I like it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you gained 3 of it back the minute you finally get to some water and Gatorade, though.
Yeah. So what you're looking at here is an inline, radiator cap in Jake Buchert's car, which got second in, I think it was small tire.
Yeah.
And he comes walking around the pits, desperate and looking stressed. Has anybody got a pipe that would fit inside here? Because the plastic piece in there, because of the heat, just distorted itself so badly it couldn't be brought back. So needed to heat it up and jam some metal in there, right? So I said, like this jack handle.
Nice.
And so the funny thing is, this jack handle, and it's not very big anymore, right? But was cut down before. There's a picture coming up. We'll talk about that. But it was cut down again, another 3.5 and 3.5 inches off this thing to create an insert for that. And we had a blast and a laugh doing it, because, you got to help a racer in need if you can, right? It fit perfect. Yeah. And, every time we jack up the car afterwards, it's like, oh, that's a lot of work, but hey, we helped somebody out, right? So all good.
Yeah. That makes you feel a little better about the lack of leverage that you get with the jack handle now.
Mucho loss of leverage.
Yep.
Yeah.
So are you saying the other
there
part
it
of
is.
the jack handle is right here? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at that, the part on the jack handle that would typically be the part that goes from here and then slims down to fit into the bottom part. Mm-hmm. That's what you see there. Okay. That's 2 years ago in my uncle's 61 Fairlane that we brought when I was a co-pilot, and he's going into third gear on the first run of the day. Right. And all of a sudden he's got the whole gear shift, most of the gear shift in his hand. Right. Well, now what do you do? Right. Like, what are you going to do now? So pull into the pits. Well, what do we have that we could do? Well, we settled on cutting off a piece of the jack handle, right? Hammering it down on the widest part, right? And duct tape like crazy on the other part, right? and then zip tie things back on there, drill a hole through the stub on the bottom, and send a picture to B&M, say this is how you should build them, right? And and then he pulls off the best pass of the whole week right after that, right? The adrenaline's just flowing, right? So it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
we'll
cool.
see what happens next year. Yeah.
Right. Time for a new job.
Yeah, definitely time for B&M should send him a new a new shifter or something for sure. Well,
Right.
I think this was a really good idea. I thought this was pretty genius, putting a chalkboard in the back of the trailer for notes of the day's stuff. Carnage, you got day, you got carnage, you got what the result was. I thought that was pretty smart because listen, everybody knows, oh, I'll remember that, but you don't remember that stuff. That's one thing that's great about people like Eric and I, or Jesse Fox or Chris Story, kind of documenting those things as you go throughout the week. But if they're not around, this is genius.
Yeah,
So.
well, I mean, the biggest satisfaction was checking off something at the end of a run, at the end of the day when you reach a hotel. Just a satisfaction that we made it this far in that 50-year-old rad. Let's see how far it can go, right? Just count down to explosion. So.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty good story, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun stuff that comes from being on that. Like I'm seeing, the mileage number with the making the passes, but does that literally say none on there? There was no updates that day, but then like you got trans.
Yeah. Yeah. So we only had one part of the whole event where we didn't have some sort of breakdown, and that was day one at Saskatoon. Okay. So, and that's after that, we had some sort of breakdown all the way along, but we finished, right? And that's what makes it the most fun, right? It took an old car with lots of 1960s parts in it still, and you drive it and you got to be creative. And that's just so much fun.
Yeah. No, I know. And then tell us about this car here.
Yeah, so that's my uncle's car that I showed you the picture of the thing before. But I just want to shout out because second, 3 years in a row in the 7.5 index class, and at Miles of Mayhem, your reaction time counts in the index, right? So it's extra hard. It's not just how close you can get the car to, but how you can get the reaction time to it. And so he's been racing this thing for a while. His seat of the pants is fantastic, and survived 3 years in a row, got hardware 3 years in a row. Just kind of fantastic.
It's such a beautiful car.
Oh man, that color is great.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just making more notes here. I apologize. So we talked about the shifter. We talked about that. Looks like we moved into some of Ed's pictures, but I had one last note real quick. Oh, no. That was the picture from the shop, or from your living room, not your shop. My notes were talking about this story here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move into some stuff from Ed here. Again, these are the pictures. There were pictures from Rodney. And now, Ed, tell us some stories. I didn't make any notes on these, so you'll have to kind of lead us through what these are and what's going on.
Yeah. So I've had this car for a long time. I ordered it with the assumption that I was going to graduate university, and I did. And my interest was taking that car and running an NHRA stock eliminator. So I factory ordered the thing to go racing. So it is a radio delete car. It has 0 options in it other than performance options. It's got vinyl seats, which at the time I didn't even think of, that would be a special option, but turns out it's like the rarest option ever in a Fox Body Mustang, vinyl seats.
Wow.
And so that thing's been a race car since new. I used to drive it to the races until I started breaking things regularly, and then got a trailer and started towing it. And so I ran it in stock and super stock. I set the national record with the thing back in '97, I think.
How cool.
One was national class champion at I think it was also '97 U.S. Nationals. I won class there. So I think I sent you a picture. There's a bunch of Wallies that go with that car between stock and super stock. And then
this shot here.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
that's
two
cool.
national records and then five Wallies that came from that car. So
cool.
I will die with that. I will die with that car. Like that car is never going to be for sale in my life. But anyway, it was sitting there on jack stands because again I own a lot of jack stands, and I did drag week with my silver 04 Mustang. I did drag week with the GTO. I did drag week with my Cobra, and it was like, okay, what's next? So I thought,
Right.
let's so my 04 Mustang, that was in 2015, and that was Plan C that year because the GTO was Plan B because the Epic there was no way I was going to get that ready, and the Black Mustang was like, well, hey, what if we just put a more reasonable engine in the thing because it's got a bulletproof drivetrain in it. It's got like a big Pinion Pro Gear 35 spline 9-inch in it that I thought there's no way on earth I'm going to break that. And it's, got a race Doug Nash trans in the thing that I'm not going to break. So I had this spare engine that had been sitting there for years that I was going to build into a dedicated super stock engine. And then I came to my senses because stock eliminator was one thing, but to run competitively in super stock, you really got to love work and hate money. And so I came to my senses and decided to just back away from it. But that engine was sitting there. So I thought, okay, well, I'll take that engine, I'll throw a cam in it, put some GT40 heads in it, throw it in the car, and I'll have a street engine. And it didn't quite work out that simple. But anyway, I built a street engine that was a lot less high strung than the race engine, and made within like 3 horsepower of the race engine. And it was still very much along the same theme, like so stock intake, had GT40 heads on it, but 100% stock short block. I just did a dingle ball hone, put new rings and bearings in it. And went to drag week with the thing. And that was the only year that I haven't finished drag week because we ate the rear end on the 3rd day. And it was just like, this is the thing that I brought. I brought 0 spare parts for the rear end because I thought it's got indestructible stuff in there. There's no way on earth I'm going to have a problem with the rear end. And that was the thing that failed. So I feel compelled. That was the black 87, the stock super stock car, which I now refer to as my stupor stock car because it's not quite legal for stock and not quite legal for super stock anymore either. But so I feel compelled to fix it and bring it back to drag week again and just redeem myself for not finishing. But,
how cool!
Yeah, so that's the story behind that car.
So are you bringing that to drag week this year?
I'm on the waiting list. I'll see. I've had a very expensive summer, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford to go, but we'll see.
So, what year did you say it was? How long have you owned this thing?
87 Mustang.
Wow.
Bought it brand new, right?
Ordered it brand new. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many miles are on it currently?
Well, so it shows about 24,000 kilometers on it, but a lot of that was with 456 gears in it, and you can't get a speedometer gear for 456 gears. So it's probably only got about 20,000 kilometers on it. Probably actually less than that, probably about 18,000 kilometers on it. It's mostly been a race car.
So like 13,000 miles.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
could you imagine?
Complete opposite fashion of typical low mileage stuff. This thing's been beat on.
Yeah, so I didn't send you a picture of this, but there's more to this story too. So when I ordered that car, my best friend at the time also ordered another 87 Mustang 5-liter. His was a hatchback with a few options on it. And we ordered them through the same dealer, through the same salesman, and they ended up being made with consecutive serial numbers. And so he had to sell. Yeah, he had to sell that car to pay for his first divorce, and I couldn't let him sell it to just anybody, so I bought it. So I have that car as well.
No way.
It's one serial number higher than this car, and that car is literally a museum piece. Like, I am not making this up. It still has the original washer fluid in the tank. Like, it's got 9,000 kilometers on it, and it's a brand new 87, Mustang, basically.
Wow. So he hasn't had nearly as much fun as you have with your car.
No. On a couple of fronts.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty neat, man. Well, that's a really cool story. So,
What
wow, yeah. Go ahead.
what
Eric.
year did you buy that one from him?
Oh, that would have been, I want to say around 2000, 2001, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Okay, so you've had that for a while as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super
How
cool.
neat. Well, what are you doing here on the ground? Why are you on the ground under the car?
So, yeah, that was 2017. I finally got the GTO to drag week. And second day was at Gateway. And we'd been there before because we were at Gateway in 2015. And so I like this, the GTO engine's got like 12.5 to 1 compression. So I'm trying to buy race fuel like every day. And the race fuel's like right at the front of the pits. So I drive in there early in the morning and I try and get a spot close to the race fuel. So I'm not hauling jugs with my, noodle arms. And so I pull in there, I yard sail the whole thing out of the car and got the slicks halfway on it. And Keith Turk comes by and he's there, this thing runs 850. And I'm like, or this thing runs in the 8s. And I'm like, no, who started that rumor? He said, well, you're an impound. It's like, oh. So in 2015, they had impound was like right by the tower. In 2017, they moved where impound was and it was right in front of the fuel guys. And I didn't even notice. So I'm like, okay, I'll pack it all up. I'll move. And Keith's like, no, it's okay. Like you're an impound. So you got to play by the impound rules, but I'll let you stay here. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Of course, I'm by myself and I go out there the first run and I break the Detroit locker. So now I got to fix it with all of my, imaginary friends because I'm an impound. So that's,
That's what you're doing here, man. Yeah.
That's
Blessing and curse. Up front parking.
Yes.
Dang it. No help.
Yeah. But, I went down there with a spare set of gears in a spool and I got it fixed. I had to take a 20-second ticket that day because, I got it fixed like literally 5 minutes after they closed the staging lanes for the day, but I managed to finish the week.
Yeah, that's always a win, and that's a story you'll remember forever. Taking that 20 that day, and that if it all been easy, you remembered it. Well, what's going on right here? What's this car?
So this was the Plan C car in 2015. So I mean, this car is like pretty much stock. Other than I do my own calibration work, so it's got a custom tune in there, and I took the drag radials off the Cobra and stuck them on this thing, and then drove down there just so I could make the meet. But there's nothing special with this car. It's an 35th anniversary edition, but other than that, it's all stock and it's slow. But I made it to drag week finally after 3 years of trying. I decided I was going to take a Plan C car and just go anyway.
Is that an auto or a manual?
Oh, auto. Everything I own's got a manual.
That's awesome. And then this is a Cobra 2018 on drag week.
Yeah. So 2018 was in Atlanta. And it was hotter than hell and humid, Canadian, right?
Yeah.
It was beyond
humidity.
our
What's
tolerance.
that?
Yeah, it was beyond our tolerance. So I mean, Miles of Mayhem was hot, but at least the humidity was reasonable.
Yeah.
Drag Week 2018 was just intolerable heat and humidity. And so anyway, I decided I took the Cobra to Rocky Mountain Race Week that year, and then decided I was going to take it to Drag Week as well. So this thing I bought brand new in 04 as well. And I literally pulled the thing out of the garage in 2018 with 6,000 kilometers on it. And it was like, we're going to Rocky Mountain Race Week with this thing. And then we did Drag Week. And, it's a convertible with no roll bar. So I'm tech limited to 1350, but the car goes 11s. So, I have to sandbag the thing for almost 2 seconds. But I thought, I'm probably not going to break anything if I'm sandbagging that bad. So, after the experience in 2017, it's like, this is going to be a little bit more like a vacation. But that was the year I went down with Sheldon Root, and that was his first time ever at a drag and drive. And his girlfriend that was supposed to be co-pilot with him was supposed to fly down there, but that was hurricane week as well. So she chose not to fly down there because we all thought it was all going to get canceled anyway. So Sheldon was by himself. So I was running with him the whole week, and all the problems I didn't have with my car, with my cruise control and air conditioning and convertible and everything else, all the problems I didn't have, he had. So he ended up getting the full drag week experience the first year, and I ended up helping him fix his car like pretty much every day. So
That's awesome.
and everybody tells me that the drive from it was from Bristol, I think. I can't remember we were like the last people to leave Bristol because we had to replace the transmission in his car. And we just drove out the gate and it started getting dark. And apparently that day was the most scenic drag week drive ever. And we missed it all because it was dark.
Because you were working on his stupid car.
But I had air conditioning, so I was happy.
Yeah. And then, so that leads me into the Sheldon Root story. Like, how long have you guys known each other? How did you end up talking him into that? Because Winnipeg to Atlanta is a long trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I decided I was going to drive the Cobra down there, because it was just way quicker and cheaper than for me to trailer anything. But I've known Sheldon since I want to say about 2001. And again, I've been doing engine calibration work, and he's got motion performance, and he had like the first chassis dyno in the city. So I ended up doing a lot of work at motion tuning customers and stuff, and we became good friends. And I'm not sure exactly when he thought drag and drive was a good idea, and I say that now that it probably isn't a good idea, but we do it anyway. And so I mean, he's gone on to do well at Sick Week, and he's done amazing things on those little 235 radios now too. It just amazes me. But he's very, very sharp guy. Very sharp.
Yeah. His car's one of my favorite drag and drive cars out there. I mean, it's just it just works.
So when we went in 2018, he won fastest Pontiac, and we were looking at each other and we thought we were going to get lynched because Acadian is technically not a Pontiac. But so he won the fastest Pontiac that first year, and then he got the bug, I guess, for the drag and drive.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do we got next here? Let's see. We got all the Wally. So walk us through this, because I want folks to understand like how important a Wally is, not just in NHRA racing, but in all of racing. I mean, this is a big deal, and there's not many of those really out there for as long as everybody's been drag racing. So kind of walk us through some of those stories.
Well, like again, I was sitting there in university one day reading like a Carcraft magazine, and there was an article in there that was called Camaro College, and it was on Jim Grossi's 67 Camaro. It was an E and F stock car. It was a 396, 3 1/4, like oval port Q-Jet. And he was running like mid to low 11s at that time, with all stock junk. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. I need to do this. So I just fell in love with stock eliminator at that time. And like I say, I ordered my car with the intent that it was going stock eliminator racing, and started that in '87. And people were laughing at me back then. It's like, a fuel injected EFI car in stock. So some people think I was the first guy to run an EFI car in NHRA stock and super stock. I've never made that claim, because I know right around the same time, Al Provost had sponsorship from Olds. They gave him like a brand new car that was EFI. So anyway, if I wasn't the first guy, I was one of the first guys. And again, a lot of, I struggled to make that car go fast for years. And like I said, people thought I was beating a dead horse and were laughing at me. But it took, a good 8-9 years before I finally got that car to be fast. And it ended up, like I say, winning class at a number of events and setting national records. And then I decided that I was going to run super stock, because NHRA, like a lot of other people, started running EFI cars in stock, and the carbureted guys started thinking that we had some kind of magic up arrow on our laptops that would just make instant horsepower. So they started whining to NHRA. So NHRA put all the EFI cars in their own class, which to me was like the redheaded stepchild class. And that really offended me, because I spent years trying to make a car that nobody thought would ever be competitive. And when I finally did, I get punished for it. Yeah. So when NHRA created all the EFI stock classes, that's when I decided I was going to run super stock, because then I could just run in the regular super stock class with the carbureted guys and just be like just another regular guy in super stock. But yeah, anyway, so that, yeah. And then I realized that, yeah, I kind of, achieved what I set out to do. And at this point I was just shoveling money. So I stepped away from it for a couple of years and then discovered the whole drag week thing.
So were you, I mean, obviously you were tuning on it then, but like what was the tuning atmosphere of the world like in 1987 and 8? I mean, like,
Yeah.
was there stuff, how do you manipulate that?
Yeah, there was not a lot of options for the first few years. So I mean, you were literally like hacking into sensors and putting in variable resistors and things like that to try and fool the stock EFI into doing what you wanted it to do versus what it wanted to do. And then the first thing I had on that car was called a Crane Interceptor, and it was like a really crude. And interceptor was the right word because it fit in between the stock harness and the ECU. So it would intercept the signals going in and out of the ECU and then modify them. And then I got hooked up with a guy called Mike Wesley, who eventually, bought out Diablo Sport, and he had, developed his own chip tuning system. And then that's how I, ended up becoming a calibrator. I, started doing my own tuning, and then other people asked me to tune their stuff. And then I started doing that.
So would you say the guys today that have like HP tuners and all the Holly stuff, you think they have it good?
Well, I mean, when I started my business, doing calibration work, that was like in 2000 or 2001. And I mean, I got I'm an engineer. I got my master's degree in engineering. So having that automotive engineering background, made it easy for me to do this stuff because nobody else, it was like a black box to them. Nobody else understood how the system worked. So I had that advantage for a number of years. And then, the aftermarket systems came out, and now with like YouTube and the internet, like you can buy an aftermarket system, for cheaper than what you'd pay me to tune your OEM system. And there's so much information on YouTube and everything else that the aftermarket systems are a lot more user-friendly, a lot more straightforward. The OEM systems are complex, crazy complex, because for them it's about meeting emissions and not necessarily performance. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of business anymore because it's just so easy to put in an aftermarket system and go to the internet and learn how to do this stuff yourself.
Yeah, I would think that one thing that I think has helped push the automotive aftermarket forward and cars going so fast is just the ease of that, like the ability to have the opportunity to talk to other people that have built a combo similar to yours. Matt Happel, Sloppy Mechanics, big shout out to him for putting a lot of tunes out on the Sloppy Wiki and stuff, and giving people a base to start with. That helps a lot. And people aren't having to figure it out by themselves as much anymore, which I think helps. And then all these, performance aftermarket manufacturing stuff are now able to afford to hire engineers from the get-go to design and develop all this stuff, instead of like what I would think, early days for you guys tuning stuff, you're literally figuring it out as you go along. Like, hey, what does this do? Hey, what does this do?
Yeah.
And then so that's helped a ton.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I started doing this when I was a young guy. When you're a young guy, you're just, you don't know what you don't know, and you're not afraid of anything. Right. So when I bought an EFI car to go stock eliminate, everybody thought I was crazy, but I was a young, fearless idiot. So now I'm an old guy. Right. But, again, the young guys, they'll think nothing of buying like an EFI system and figuring out on their own. They're fearless.
Yep. Well, let's talk about cool cars. I love this car. I love the GTO. Tell us the story behind it, what the power plan is, and what all you've done in this car.
So, I took my stock eliminator knowledge and put it into this car, but now I wasn't constrained by a very strict set of rules. So my goal with the car was to make the thing look as stock as possible, but to try and squeak out an 1199 ticket under ideal conditions. Well, I completely overshot that because the car's gone 1120s. So now I'm, trying to see if I can squeak out a 1099 ticket.
Yeah.
But
1120 be the worst thing to happen to you, because now you're like, ooh.
Well, so I have to sandbag all week at Miles of Mayhem because no roll bar, right? So it's frustrating. Making a car go slow is a lot harder than people think. But anyway, so that, when I wanted to go to Drag Week, my epic build was supposed to be the Drag Week car. And again, it wasn't going to, when I finally got registered, there was no way I was going to get ready by September. So I started looking through the collection, and it's like, okay, well, what else might I be able to take? And it's like, I'm looking at the GTO, and it's like, okay, you probably take that thing. Now, the transmission that's in there probably won't last, and the rear end certainly won't. So it's like, we got to put a good rear end in the thing. So I built like a 33 spline 12 bolt with a Detroit locker, which ended up breaking. I originally built a super case Muncie. I found some old Doug Nash nickel alloy gears for it, and then broke that. And then I fell into a G-Force G101 for a price that I couldn't refuse. So I stuck that in the car. Of course, it's got like an adjustable slipper clutch in it too. And the engine that I had in there originally was it was a bored out 455 with a Ram Air 4 cam, stock heads, intake, tri-power, of course. And that motor had this ticking noise that drove me crazy, and I could never figure it out. I went through the valve train, I changed the lifters, I checked everything, and it's just drove me nuts. So I finally got so frustrated, I just built a whole new motor from scratch. So what's in there now is a 30 over 455 with a 4 1/4 stroker crank. It's got 12.5 to 1 compression. It's got Edelbrock D-port heads that I modified to make them look like stock heads. So I copied the pattern off the front of the stock heads and milled out the Edelbrock ones and roughed it up to make it look like casting, and faked a core plug on the front of the heads too, and ground off all the Edelbrock logos, and then used high heat JB Weld to fake the Pontiac casting numbers on the head. So I've fooled some pretty hardcore Pontiac guys with those heads. It's got a Repro aluminum intake on it. It's got a full roller valve train in it. I've got a 500, like a 1 3/8 bore center carb on there. So altogether, it's about 950 CFM between the three carbs. I've tuned the thing with my wideband, so it's like anyway, it's gone faster than I thought the thing was ever going to go. Now that specific picture shows a big dent in the quarter panel, and when I took it to Drag Week, I never had a chance to sort out the chassis or the clutch, and I was struggling the first several days. It just kept dead hooking and bogging, and I kept dialing more clutch out of it, and I kept adjusting the chassis. And it wasn't until I finally got to Great Lakes Dragway that the thing finally launched proper. And so this is a funny story too. So it finally launched properly, and I felt like I was really on a run. Now, again, this thing doesn't have a roll bar. There's no headrest. There's no seat support and everything else. So I'm, death grip on the steering wheel, and this thing launches, and I pull back so hard on the steering wheel, it actually pulls the steering shaft up about an inch.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, well, the steering wheel is still tight. So I'm going for second. It's still steering. I'm going for third. Like, I'm on the run of my life. I am not getting out of it. I ended up getting a ticket that I couldn't hand in anyway. But when the steering wheel came up, the horn button got loose. It was fine when I was going down the track. But when I started turning the steering wheel to get on the return road, that's when the loose horn button became a problem. So right before me, Joe Barry had just run. And so he's right at the entrance to the return road, and his parachute is dragged across the entrance, and he's out there, picking up his parachute. And now here's some jerk in a GTO that's honking his horn at him as I'm turning onto the return road. So I just pull the car over. I get out. I walk over to him, and I apologize. Like, Joe, I'm not honking at you. My steering wheel came loose. I'm sorry. I'm not being a jerk.
That's great. I bet he didn't. I bet it didn't even make him mad.
He's such a nice guy. Right? It didn't even faze him at all. But anyway, that run put that dent in that quarter panel. The car launched so hard it twisted up, and now I've got a permanent reminder of that run.
You got a permanent reminder of the just straight up horsepower that car makes. How cool, man! Wow. Well, this car looks different than the GTO.
So that is my Drag Week car. That I'm hoping at this point I get it finished before I'm too old and afraid to drive it as fast as that thing is going to go. So it is a little British-made subcompact based on a Vauxhall Viva. and sold only in Canada under the brand of Envoy Epic. It was 1,950 pounds when I started. And I've got a twin turbo LS2 that's going in there with a stick shift, of course, and a 10-inch tire. It's going to be a small tire car. And, I've been going back and forth about doing an SFI chassis versus 850. I want to drive that thing every day. So I pretty much talked myself into doing just an 850 cage in the thing, just to make it a little bit more friendly. But so that's the goal, is to build, that car that'll, run in the eights, and it'll end up being like an unlimited car, because I have to cut the firewall so much to fit that engine in there. But it should be a fun little car if I ever finish it.
Yeah, I would imagine
that's awesome.
That would be a blast. What trans you going to run in that thing?
So I keep going back and forth on that too. So, I really like the idea of an overdrive, because the GTO doesn't have one. And so I've got a 32 spline T56 that's built for the thing, but I don't like the size and the weight of the T56. So I don't know. I might put the G-Force in there. I might think about a TKX. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm undecided. I have multiple transmission choices to put in there. I just haven't decided what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah, I was thinking the overdrive would be great for your other Canadian friend up there. You guys could run 107 miles an hour together.
Yeah. Well, when I had the Cobra at Rocky Mountain Race Week, I had the T56 in that thing, and I was running with the Bill Armstrongs and the Rich Guidos and the Adam Dorries, the T56 club, and it's a whole world different than driving the GTO, where Rich was asking me, like, how fast were you going with the heat? And I said, well, I was determining my speed not from watching the speedometer, but by watching the temperature gauge the whole week. But it's trying to keep it under 3,000 RPM.
Yeah, that makes it kind of tough. Well, tell us about, is this the super stock car? No.
So yeah, that's the Mustang, and I am a no trailer guy. So there's not a lot of room in a Mustang. The GTO has a massive trunk, so you can fit the slicks, and just like a huge yard sale like fits in the GTO, but not in the Mustangs. So we went roof rack with the Mustang.
That's great. How do you attach it? Is it just on the does it have like the clamps on the side?
Yeah, it's got clamps, and it's like I modified the roof rack a little bit so that it's all one piece now, so it's pretty quick and easy to take off and stick on. It's like another 3 minutes probably. So
what's classic calamity saying there?
I said I would love to hear a topic about high horsepower manual trans combos and pros and cons.
Yeah, you need to talk to the Chris Hines and the Rich Guidos of the world, and Bill Armstrong. Those guys are all my heroes.
Yeah, classic calamity. You need to be listening to the Clutch Burners podcast. Those guys. Next stuff. Yeah, that's a great one.
Is there a hitch mount on the back of that too?
Sorry, what was the question?
I said, is there a hitch mount on the back of that too?
No, I thought about that, but I just decided to go with the roof rack instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see something blue in the background. I couldn't tell if that was like fuel jugs on a hitch mount or something.
Oh, that might be from cars behind me in the picture.
Gotcha.
It looks like there's a race car friend over there.
There's a gas station.
The white notch, and then
something
else there. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, we street cars. Yeah, right. I'm a trailer guy though. I'm like I'm not trailering my race car, but I like pulling a trailer.
I totally get the advantages of the trailer, but I don't know. To me, it's like it's more in line with the 2-lane blacktop theme to just put it all in the car.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. We did that with the cart the first year we went. That was a mess, because those tires that we were putting on the roof, I think they weighed like 84 pounds each or something stupid, and we were putting them up, so like you're just throwing that tire up there. It was I've done dumber things, but that was one of the top 10.
Getting a workout. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hey, that's for sure. By the end of the week, I was like, "So, will somebody else just put these up there for me, please?" What's going on here? Looks like Drag Week 17 in the GTO and a really hard launch. This is a great photo.
Yeah, so that was the stick shift shootout back in 17, and I got really lucky that I've got this 11-second car and I managed to make it to the semifinals just by fluke of the pairings that I had along the way. And I was supposed to run, I'm brain farting on his name now, the guy with the black Capri. Anyway, I was
with the flames.
No, black Capri stick shift guy. He's gone like high eights with that car. It's got a Coyote and a Pro Charger on it. John, man, this sucks when you get old. Puckett, John Puckett.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Rich Guido was on the other side of the ladder, and I can't remember who he was supposed to run. And so I kind of got everybody together and I said, "Hey, do you guys mind if we adjust the ladder, so I can run Rich?" Because I thought, it would make a cool thing to have the GTOs go heads up. Yeah. And so I did, and everybody agreed, and it worked out great. I treed Rich. I got the picture of a lifetime like that. That was Dom. Man, I'm bad with names tonight.
Yeah, D'Amato.
Thank you. Yeah. Snap that picture for me. I treed Rich pretty good, and then the pilot bearing exploded when I went for third gear or fourth gear, and I mean I wasn't going to win anyway because Rich was going to freight train me at the other end anyway. Yeah. But Rich ended up winning overall the stick shift shootout that year. I was happy to make it to the semifinals. It was pretty cool experience.
Well, we've got about 4 minutes here. Let's run through these last two photos real quick. Tell us what's going on with these things. This is the yard sale of the GTO.
That all fits in the GTO. Yeah, that's all I need to say about that.
Yeah. That's I want everybody to understand that all goes in that car. That's that's intense. That's a lot of stuff people don't understand. And then what's going on here? Is this the transmission swap in Sheldon's car?
Yeah, this was at Bristol swapping the transmission with Sheldon Root. So yeah, again, we got it fixed. He finished the week, won fastest Pontiac, but we were the last guys to leave that track.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. Jay and Brian with the Nova have swapped transmissions in that parking lot as well. That's a hard track on stuff, but absolutely the most beautiful place I've been. I think it's top 3 beautiful tracks across the country that I've visited.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about it was the uphill starting line, and with the Cobra, I didn't have a line lock in it. So if I wasn't paying attention, I would roll back out of the beams.
Nice. Yeah, that could be a problem. Well, y'all, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time tonight and telling stories. The hardest part about what Eric and I do is stopping now because I feel like we're getting rolling on some fun stories. I want to thank you both for sending the photos that made tonight great. One more time, can you tell everybody where they can find your stuff, find your channels on YouTube?
So yeah, my YouTube channel is NHRA Stock, one word, and I'm on Instagram just at Hohenberg.
Rodney's Rods, capital R, no apostrophe, underscore in between. Yeah,
awesome
on YouTube.
That's so cool.
On YouTube, and thank you guys for the great show you put out. I love it.
Thanks for what you guys do.
Yeah,
thanks for having us on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate that for sure. Well, tell us lastly, what event is next up for you guys? Drag and Drive event and just regular, whatever you got going on.
Maybe Drag Week. I really want to go back to Rocky Mountain Race Week again next year for the big anniversary event. Got to find a way to do that.
Yeah, I was going to try and make Dragway Rush in Ontario first event, this August, but I don't know. There's a little bit of problems with the car. I got to try and figure out how I can fix it in time. So we'll see.
Yep. Well, good luck on that. Well, guys, stay with us. I'm going to put you backstage, but stay with us. I want to talk just for a few minutes after the episode's done. Thanks again. Stay here.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, dude. How fun. How
Dude,
fun!
there's a
What?
lot of good stories there.
Oh, I'm telling you, that is the hardest part about what we do is keeping this at 2 hours. We've kind of fudged. Typically, we try to keep our secondary guests as an hour, but I knew those guys had some fun stories and all the fun things they could go on. So we didn't have a first guest, and we came in a little early. So this will be a good time. And again, folks, you can watch this on PowerTube. We'll cut down, do some exclusive stuff over there. So if you want to run this out with race car friends and stuff, we'll get back to talking to them.
All right. So we've had a great show tonight. A lot of people in here watching, a lot of comments. So thanks to you guys for keeping us going, for watching and letting us do what we enjoy to do here. And of course, thanks to our sponsors, Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Chains 3D, WAF Racing, Performant Transmission, Howard's Cam, Sweet Patina, Racing Junk, and Power Tube TV. Thanks, guys, and we will see you on the next episode.
Yep, we'll see you live sometime this weekend from the Havlik's Fastest Streetcar Shootout. All right, guys, bye.
See ya.
Sweet.